What's going on, everybody? It's EricRayweather back here, and in today's video I'm going to be going over a bit of big Madden 21 news that one of the game designers has been teasing over on his Twitter account recently. Now, this would be a significant change to the game, but it's also something controversial. A lot of people wouldn't like it, but I do think a lot of people here would like it. So we're going to talk about it. I'll kind of give my thoughts on it, why it could be good or bad. Now, if you're new to the channel and you want to be up to date, we're going to have tons of Madden 21 news coming soon, and then when the game drops, I got a ton of cool content coming this year. So if you're one of those people that watches the channel but just hasn't clicked subscribe yet, go ahead and join the family. We just hit 256,000 today. Y'all have been running it up like crazy. I know we can hit 300K before the game drops, so go ahead and hit that button if you're new. Stay up to date. A lot of cool content coming soon. Now, Donnie Moore, one of the game designers over on Twitter about last week, he tweeted this out. He said, "How bad of an idea would it be to make stamina and injuries matter more in games? Taking a smart system, not random. One where if you run 5, 6, 7 straight times, your back is going to need a breather to get back to 100%. Injury risk rises as he stays on the field." Now, he added a poll to this, and the overwhelming majority voted that this would not be the worst idea. In fact, almost 70% of the votes were that this wouldn't be a bad idea. And the smallest amount of votes, 6%, was that it would be a terrible idea. Now, about almost 1,500 people voted for it, so a small sample size if you compare it to everybody who plays Madden, but a decent sample size of some of the most invested hardcore players, right? Now, it's important to note that it wouldn't be random, it would be a smart system. But we're going to continue on, and I'm going to touch on some more things in a minute because he had some replies to the tweet, obviously, and he replied to those guys. So Matt, who is a competitive player, said, "This feels like one of those things that sounds cool if done well, but even done perfect, it ends up just being a did you pay attention type of thing." He said, "I don't think there's a way for something like this to add to the skill gap, in my opinion, if that's the intent." And then Donnie responded, "Good points, Matt. I agree. As far as making it fun to experience, that might be very difficult. But are missed field goals fun? Are 5-yard losses on first downs fun? Sometimes football just isn't fun. Heck, anytime you lose, it's not fun. I do think we can make it skill-based." And that's true. A lot of football isn't fun, especially in Madden. Dropped interceptions, definitely not fun. Hate those. I know most of you guys hate this one. Dropping passes on offense, definitely not fun. Getting sacked, not fun, right? So everything doesn't have to be fun, right? As long as it's not completely random. Because the thing here with online play, which is a competitive environment, you want to try to eliminate as much randomness as possible, even though you got to think, okay, in real life, fumbles happen, dropped interceptions happen, right? Injuries happen. And usually when these things happen, aside from injuries, because injuries obviously could just be freak accidents, but if you fumble the ball, that's your fault as a player. If you drop the pick, that's your fault as a player. When that happens in Madden, it's not your fault. It's random. It's something you had no control of. Even if you did the right thing, you still get punished. That's where the gray area is. Obviously, dropping picks, fumbling, and things like that are realistic, but when you have a video game and you're trying to make a certain aspect of it competitive, you know, you have to kind of draw that line somewhere where you say, yes, you know, more of these things would happen in real life, but you don't want to take too many things out of the user's hands, because at that point it becomes too random and just luck based, and you don't want that. And there's enough of Madden that's already like that, and quite frankly has been getting worse every year. The skill gap has been getting smaller, right? So randomness is not what you want. You want something that you can control, and that is what he's offering here. If you keep a guy in too long and you're force-feeding him, yes, stamina already exists. If you run the ball with someone too many plays in a row, he'll noticeably be slower when you give him the ball the next time. His ball carrier moves or his ability to break tackles will be worse, which is good, because that's what stamina should affect the most, is your play on field. That's why players come out. It's not so much for injury risk. From a technical standpoint, would you be more prone to getting injured if you were winded, if you're gassed? I guess technically yes, but usually injuries are more so, okay, a guy planted his foot the wrong way, or he got hit a certain way, or he landed the wrong way, right? But yes, from a technical standpoint, if you were winded, yes, maybe that would affect your ability to brace for hits like you would, or maybe fall as carefully as you would, right? There would be a small component there where being winded could increase the chance of injury, but more so it's going to affect your on-field play. And that's something I think already happens with stamina, but there's room to make it better for players not performing well. It affects running backs especially, or if you know huddle a lot, you know, the receivers will be a little more sluggish and slow. But I think, you know, for pass rushers and things like that, you know, rotating your pass rushers should be a thing where they can't consistently get those block sheds or get to the QB quick if he's getting tired. You got to swap these guys in or out. So I think that's what I would like to see more, is it affect on-field play if you're not managing your players and your rotations better. But I'm okay with the idea of opening up an injury risk, because it does kind of help counterbalance the fact that, yes, a lot of people spam the same things over and over, so you're putting another system in there that says, hey, if you don't manage this guy, you can have a risk of him potentially getting hurt, whether it be for a few plays or maybe for the game. We don't know, it could be varying injuries. Now, a lot of people want injuries on in the game anyway, just random injuries. I'll never be for that, because I don't like randomness. But if you're going to say that I can manage this, I'm fine with it. Now, let's continue on. So Donnie responded to another tweet later on saying, I would love to see it actually be a skill to manage your backfield to the maximum ability, much like it is in real-world football. Mixing up play call, potentially change of pace backs to affect the defensive line and linebacker reaction time temporarily, just ideas. Now, at this point, I get the intent, hey, change of pace back, he's a different type of back than your starter. Hey, maybe your front seven on defense is more winded than your fresh back that came in, so they might not react as well when he gets the ball. I get the intent, but I don't like when EA does stuff like that, because they usually don't do that right. And we don't need the reaction time and the awareness of defenders to be any worse than it already is. There's certain aspects where they're good, but there's certain aspects where they're terrible, mainly this year in the run game. I don't think affecting the reaction time of the defense is necessary, because, again, I get the intent, but it's usually not done right. And that's this whole thing, because throughout this tweet, a lot of replies are saying, yes, if done correctly, this could work. And that's always the big if with EA, because we know with a lot of things, especially when they first implement it, they don't do it 100% correctly. They don't have the right balance in place, and that's always the issue. But I'm always open for the attempt. Hey, can you attempt to make the gameplay better by adding some more realism or adding something you need to manage? I like the attempt. If it doesn't work, if it fails, then you can just revert back to the old system. But attempting to make something better, I think, is cool. Now, something else to kind of take into account here is quarterbacks, right? Online when you run with quarterbacks, if you get hit, they're going to fumble a good bit of the time. Now, in franchise mode, when it's on simulation style, they don't fumble nearly as much. They still will fumble, but not nearly as much as online. And the reason for that is because there's injuries in simulation and franchise mode. And the reason QBs mainly slide in real life is to protect from injury, not so much for fumbling. Sure, fumbling probably has a small part in it, but it's mainly so that they don't get hurt. Now, if you add this back into online play, where if you're running with your QB a lot, hey, if he gets hit, he has a chance to get to get hurt. He has to slide. Now you can decrease the fumbling, because now the bigger risk is him actually getting hurt. So yes, you can still take hits with your QB. You have a lower chance of fumbling. You're not going to get hurt every time you get hit with your QB, but the fact that there is a chance to get hit, you're going to see people still slide because they don't want to lose their QB. So that opens up that as well. Now, somebody else responded and said, I believe this system was used in Head Coach, and it worked fine then. And then Donnie responded to that, said, Head Coach was a great game, one of his all-time favorite games to work on. And he said, the idea would be to not make it random at all in competitive play. It would be 100% based on your actions with your players. It would be for extreme scenarios only. It would be dumb to see your running back just get hurt after one play where he pulls a muscle or something for no reason. That would be awful. Nobody wants that in competitive play, me either. And I agree, because, again, you're getting online, you're playing a game where if you're in a tournament, you don't want to lose your player on the first play of the game due to something random. That's not skillful. That's complete luck, and that's not good for any competitive environment. It's taking it out of your hands. But again, if the injury is because you left him in too long, at that point it's on you. And it's not even that skillful, because it's basically just paying attention. And if you can't pay attention and say, hey, I have to rotate my guys, then I feel like at that point it's on you when it's not lucky. And then one last comment that he responded to, somebody said, as long as it's not exaggerated, no back in the NFL is going to stay in the entire game and touch the ball every play. Breaking tackles should use more stamina, maybe add an ability to knock the wind out of players. Not the worst idea. And then he responded, yes, exactly. It would have to be very skillfully done. It would impact extremes in a perfect world. It would have a meter, so you know how many more hits you can take before maybe your QB enters the danger zone. Once you're in the danger zone, maybe you can get out of it by adding, extra protection. So he's just kind of spitballing the ideas here. But again, what's really interesting is most people voted yes on this, that it wouldn't be a bad idea. And they have actually been doing that in competitive play towards the end of Madden 20. They've left some things up to the community. They've done polls, and they've implemented what the community voted on. So that's kind of a big thing in them saying that with certain types of gameplay ideas that they have, they're willing to let the community vote on it and take the majority there. Now, of course, with many things in the game, they're not willing to do that, because if they were, the game would be an entirely different game than it is, right? But at least for certain things, they've shown and implemented, hey, if you vote on this, we'll give it a shot. So the fact that they voted on this, the fact that he even took it to Twitter, leads me to believe this is something we will see in Madden 21. Like I said, I would like to see it affect on field more than injuries, because I think that's what it would affect more in real life. But we already see that a little bit with stamina, especially with offensive players. But if they could do that for defensive players too, specifically pass rushers, because running backs and pass rushers are like the two positions that you rotate the most. You have to rotate guys, because at a certain point, the backup player in a lot of cases is better than the starter when the starter is completely gassed. He needs a breather. So the backup is better in that situation because he's fresh. So I would like to see roster management come more into play. Now, the biggest thing is competitive players don't like this for mainly the salary cap game mode, because now you would have to roster more backups, whereas now nobody really rosters backups. But to me, I feel like that is the whole purpose behind the salary cap mode. It's roster management. You're not supposed to have a stacked team. So if you have to have a couple extra backups and now a couple of your starting spots are weaker, well, that's a playing field everybody's playing on. Everybody's got to deal with that. So I don't really see where that makes that big of a deal if everybody is playing under those same rules. And again, the whole purpose of the salary cap mode was to make your roster management key and for every position to not be a stud. But the problem we have seen in Madden towards the end of the year is most people are able to build stacked teams in salary cap based around whatever play style they like, and they never have to roster a backup. So I personally don't see an issue with it. I can see why competitive players don't like it, but I think that's a change that makes sense. Again, if they're going to spoon feed you the information even and say, hey, your guy has 3 more hits before he enters the danger zone, at that point, there's nothing random about it. All you have to simply do is pay attention and make the adjustments, and I think that could be a really good thing for the game. Of course, there's so many other things with the game they need to fix. If a lot of the core issues still exist, the gameplay is going to still be bad, but I'm all for the attempt of anything they're going to try to do to maybe make it a little bit better and more realistic, because at a certain point, it is supposed to be realistic, and for competitive play, there is supposed to be certain things that you push to the side for the sake of competition, but you need to try to bring that balance closer together than it is now. So I don't think this would be a terrible idea. What do you guys think? Let me know below, and also check out some of these other videos right here. I will see you guys on the next one.